So you type a website on your browser and you get back a page like this, server not found. For example, 1.1.1.1, right? Page loading, right? It's going to come back not found. But let's say I try to access this website with its IP address just because I know its IP address, which is 1.1.1. Let's see if you see we are able to get there. Now let's understand what is the issue. Why is it that I'm able to access this website 1.1.1.1 with its IP address, but I am not able to access this website with its host name, with the host name? Let's understand. So first things first, remember, computers only talk to each other using IP addresses. So they don't talk to each other using host names. But DNS is the first actor that comes into place whenever you're trying to access any website. So here's me here, Yannick, the user. I'm sitting, right? I'm using my browser, which is Firefox. It could be Chrome, it could be Safari, it could be any browser. I'm trying to access a website. In this case, I'm trying to access 1.1.1.1, this host name. You see, 1.1.1.1. I can't. But as soon as I try to access it with its IP address, which is 1.1.1.1, I am able to. So why? Because computers only talk to each other using host names, just like phones. You don't, when you are calling John on your phone, what happens is you saved that, you saved John's number under his name, but every time you hit call John, your phone has a system, right, that comes into the picture first, and it translates that John is actually, you trying to call John is trying to call 778 or whatever number you registered for John. Same thing with computers. My browser is trying to go to 1.1. But now, remember the error I got. The error message was Firefox cannot connect to the server at 1.1.1. What can you do about it? So these are troubleshooting steps, but I know what I did to break this on my system just so I could explain this concept. So what happens is, yeah, I connected directly using my IP address. So that's why I had the website returned, right? That's why this web page was returned to me. So, but that's because I know the IP address. Every time you want to call John, you don't want to recall his number. I don't want to recall the IP address of every single website that I connect to. So that is why the way the internet works, DNS does that resolving for us. So my browser, the first thing my browser does is it checked for my browser cache. So browser caching is a concept where all the websites that I visit, remember when you are visiting websites on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad, you always see at the bottom, do you want to enable caching or accept caching? If you hit yes, the next time you try to connect to that website, what happens is your request doesn't bounce all over the internet because it sees that you already went to the website, it trusts you. So your browser would indirectly return a web page with the IP. So because there was caching at the browser level. Now, if there wasn't no caching at the browser level, when my browser tried to check for the caching, it goes to my operating system DNS cache. So my there's a DNS server with the way computers are set up, and it's installed on my operating system. And caching is basically like history, keeping a record of what happened. So it goes and checks there to see if there's any records of me connecting to this website with a host name. Because if there was a history, it doesn't really need to look up the IP address. It stores this IP address in the cache. But I actually cleared my cache for this video. So if I had previously connected to 1.1.1, right? And the IP address was stored in the DNS cache. So what will happen is the web page would get sent back to my browser from the DNS cache. Now, if there was no DNS caching enabled, because I did flush my DNS caching before this video, which is why I was still not able to do that. What happens is your request from your browser goes to what we call a recursive resolver cache. So what the system does is that it goes and look and check the root server. So all of this process, all of what your browser is trying to do, all this process down here, your browser is just trying to find out within all of this process, like what is the IP address of 1.1.1.1. Like what is the IP address, yes, of this host name 1.1.1, because 1.1.1.1 is a host name. It's actually HTTP. If we let me just show it to you. You see, HTTP.1.1.1. So the browser is trying to figure out, right, like what is the IP address for that website. So it comes to the root server. If it still cannot find it, right, what happens is, because the root server is like a parent server for DNS, to look up DNS. If it doesn't find it, what it happens is it queries the .com server. So the .com server is basically a worldwide web public server that has records for all. Look at it as like a huge phone directory with like T-Mobile, AT&T, that has like all the phone numbers for public books. Remember back in the day where you had like these big books. I don't know if you are old school or how old you are if you're watching this video, but basically there could be a database or a registry with a system that has like all websites. If you've ever created a website, right, for any reason, or if you create a website, what happens is you create a domain name. Now that domain name gets mapped to an IP address, and there is a host such as GoDaddy, Namecheap, and so it's like phone number and name, IP address, host name. That's the best way to look at it. So all this process here is like, we know the name of the person, but we are trying to find the phone number of the person so that we can call him. In this case, we know the website that we are trying to get to, but we are trying to understand the phone number for the website, which is actually the IP address. So it comes here, the .com, which is basically TLD server, is basically authority. I've forgotten what TLD stands for. I could look that up, but it basically looks up and tries to resolve the host name. If it doesn't find that out, it goes back to the recursive resolver, because the recursive resolver is the orchestrator. He's actually looking from the root server. If he doesn't find it, he goes and checks the .com server. If he doesn't find it, he goes to the authoritative name server. So the authoritative name server is basically, let's say I was the owner of 1.1.com, right? And this host name was registered with a host. So a host is basically a company you go to and say, hey, give me a server. I'm trying to build a website and I want all of my files and applications to be on there. So 1.1 could go to Namecheap, GoDaddy, right? And hosted their applications there. So we are querying the server, like the public servers, to find out what is the IP address, because typically 100% of the times it has to be in the authoritative name server, because this is a public website. So that's how we do get back the result of the IP address we are trying to go to from the recursive resolver cache, because the recursive resolver cache is querying these other servers. Once it gets that information of the IP address, it sends that IP address all the way back to the browser, which we get this page. But in our case, we was not able to get, okay, yes, it's still recording. In our case, we were not able to get the result because I messed up my IP address for my resolver cache, and I was able to access, I bypassed all of this process here. And from the browser, I went straight with the IP address, which is 1.1.1. But now we don't want to do things like this always, right? Let's fix it. So my fix would just be here. If you're having an issue where you're trying to connect to a website and the page is loading and you cannot see the result, your typical most easy fix would be to reset your DNS. You could just look up something like DNS server reset locally, right? So if you look at it, could be Windows, it could be, oh, I don't have that. So okay, you see? So even that, see what happened, DNS lookup. So what's happening is I can't even access Google because my DHCP server is messed up. I know how to fix it. So in your situation, right, in your situation, you could just do ipconfig/flush DNS. If you are using Windows, the command on the Mac is different. And then after running this command, you do ip/config, but this time you do DNS renew. But I wouldn't be doing that. So what I would do, right, because I messed up my DNS configurations, don't really worry about it. I know how to fix it. But this is not what you would be doing to fix this. We have to do a reset. And then flush DNS. Let's see. Renew. Okay, DNS server renewed. Now watch how all of my host names start resolving. You see, now all my pages are loading. All of my, I'm able to connect to the websites using host names now. I just fixed it because I don't want to recall Google's host name. I don't want to recall Facebook's IP address. I just want to type Facebook and go to Facebook, right? I don't want to have to recall what is the IP address, right? So guys, if this helped you and if you didn't understand anything and you want me to make a video about it, leave a comment in the comment section and I'll definitely make a video to help you, and I do hope this video helped you.